Right, what about this then? So on the topic though, you talked before about Alex, right? Here's what's bizarre, because obviously, I have my own perspective on CS from all the years I've watched. What I find weird is this. I understand, by the way, completely why fans are flaming Cloud9. Look, it hasn't lived up to expectations. It was all these millions and millions of dollars, and as a result, you'd expect it to be a top team. And also, they have a big problem at the moment, which is even when they play well and they play so many of the teams close, they do tend to lose a lot of those games. You have to win them eventually. You can't just keep saying, well, it was close. But here's one thing I think's weird, is because people are on the hype train of we're going to trash them. It reminds me when everyone was trashing Ents. At least in Ents, it was a bit more justified. When they trash all the players in the team, I don't get that, because, for example, with Alex, here's what I don't get. I know part of it is that this team hasn't been a top team, and when he left Vitality, they became arguably the number one team. So they all think, oh, see, it shows Alex isn't good. It's the opposite. If he had the Vitality team, by the way, less experienced in terms of ZywOo, and they were amazing, and now he has a team where he doesn't even have a ZywOo, he has two American players and then a bunch of supportive elements that are good, but he's always close against Na'Vi and fucking Gambit and all the top teams. Dude, that means he's doing something. His style must have a logic to it and effectiveness, right?
No, listen, I mean, maybe me and him didn't see the game as the same, but he's smart and he works a lot. Don't get me wrong, his way of CS is not the wrong way. It's the same way mine style is not the wrong style. He does a lot of things good. He is good creating strats, finding smokes, organizing mid round, calling mid round. He always had the same tone of voice when he's calling, so people don't get overly confused or something.
Right.
He is doing a lot of good things, right? But right now, you said that they're not closing games. They're not winning games or whatever you want to call it, right? But I think there's few reasons for that. Obviously, the 60% of their lineup are rookies.
Yes.
That's they have Essetag on the op as well. He's not a clear opper. He's more of a hybrid opper, right? And he's a solid hybrid opper, but he's not a primary one. And they have 60% of rookies, Floppy and Mezzi and Zeppa, who didn't play almost any lands except for Floppy, who played maybe one or two, And then they have Alex, who had a massive break in 2020 after the Katowice. He took a 10-month break, and then we had Essetag in Australis, who had online part of the summer that he played well, maybe 30-ish maps with Australis. So you said it nicely. I think they're not doing bad as people think. It's just people I spent so much money and it's a bullshit and whatever. But I think Alex in general as an IGL he can be a really good IGL in the right team. Just give him the pieces that he wants and pieces that players that understand him. I think he can be really good.
But man, you have to be genuinely honest also and really fair always when you judge teams. I think because it's so hard being a good team in 3-4 months only. It's so hard, especially with the competition right now. There is the top 20 can beat each other all the time. There's not even a constant top 3 that we have, which we had 1 year ago. Yes. We always had a constant top 3, and there is nobody. If you reach this team, you're fucking next level. But right now there is one level. There's one level, no consistency, and you cannot judge these teams because look. He has 4 months. He's almost beating these top-level teams with people, with players where Kassad says 60% of them have never played any super professional Counter-Strike or whatever. They also need experience still. Look at Gambit. It took them 2 years to become a fucking insane team. And look, now they're dominating the scene. And I'm telling you, this team will not be just right now. This team will also dominate on LAN, and this team will keep continuing being good.
Well, I need to see it.
Of course.
I need to see it. I generally don't believe in that right now because it's online. I don't believe it because it's online. I think we discussed it even. The things that
was before we started recording.
Yeah, the things that team do nowadays, it's fucking crazy, right? The way people are taking space, the calls by IGLs that are being called in some of the rounds, double calling, triple calling, rush B, you get stopped, you call a rush B again, and then you get stopped somewhere and people dry swinging somewhere, all these calls and all these moves individually, all this confidence that coming from online is fucking insane. Russians and CIS teams, they have their own fucking meta. They don't care what's the meta is. They're just running their own. And it's working now. I mean, teams like Gambit, they have some cool stuff doing that are doing right now that people are copying actually, and it's pretty cool.
They have insane team play.
They're sharp online. They're fucking crazy. They're doing all these crazy things. But the question is, when you go to LAN, is your IGL gonna make the same calls that he did online? Are your players gonna dry swing, and when you get shot by a top tier player, top 5 player, in the middle of any map, are you gonna swing that again? Because let's be honest, some of these rounds they're winning is because somebody swung somewhere and headshotted somebody else, and then this guy, all right, let's do this, and you get a double kill, 5v3, 5v4, whatever, 4v2, doesn't matter, right? Somebody repushes something for the info, somebody pushes some part of the map by himself without having any kind of reason for it, just unreasonable push that works. Is this going to happen on LAN environment?
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. What I personally think, I'm obviously kind of on your side. I believe obviously it's a lot having LAN experience, but I'm seeing the perspective from a UFC fighter now. They always speak about ring rust, not fighting 1.5 years, how it's gonna be in front of people, crowd again. It's different. I can also imagine, obviously, ring rust for them is also they haven't actually fought fights. They are still playing LAN events, but I see these online games like a sparring for them, and going to a fucking actual event or main event for them, like a online tournament, offline tournament. And I can also imagine that it's going to be different feeling.
No, don't get me wrong.
From my experience myself, I have played Counter-Strike for very long time. And then after 2 years not playing, I come back and the first official, I shit my pants, I'm shaking, and things that I never used to before for a very, very long time. But okay, I'm fucking back to this. Your adrenaline pumps up, and it's going to be same for the other players as well.
The thing is the thing that I think maybe we don't think the same way. There is a new generation of players that are coming into the scene. Don't get me wrong. CIS, every other country, there is a new generation of players. People are talking all these CS players going into Valorant. Let them go.
Of course,
they can go.
Yeah,
there's a new generation of players coming in, and bunch of these players that are in these online teams, they're going to be good on LAN. The question is that I'm not talking about the players. Are teams going to be good on LAN?
Sure.
Not the players. Some of the players will show up. They will have the numbers the same as they did online, but not all of them. Yeah, the teams won't play the same. The IGLs won't make the same calls. 100%. And then
it's going to be different. That's for sure.
I'll give you an anecdote that explains exactly if a fan's, and obviously most fans, even if they've played a LAN, it's not the same as a big LAN with stage and pressure and you're playing against legendary names. I'll give everyone a very quick story because it's names that people might actually know. So it's a boomer reference, but obviously one of the most old school players in Counter-Strike was an American player called K-Sharp, right? And everyone knows, he was a legendary AWPer, he was fucking super sick, blah, blah, blah. What they don't know is this, right? Is that was at the beginning of his career. And then when he went to loads and loads of LANs, as the European teams were becoming more and more dominant, and to even be the best NA team, and actually now you're maybe the 4th best team in the world, you're probably not going to win the tournament, you got a chance still, I used to say to him, dude, you actually are mad skilled with the AWP, why don't you use it in all these games when you play against the Swedes? I notice, I'd see times when you had the money to buy it, and you just it's like you went safe and you just bought an M4 and you just held an angle. I said, why would you do that? And he said, because here's the thing, mate, all those demos you're thinking of where I'm just wrecking everyone with the AWP, they're all online games, I have 60 ping there, or the opponent I'm playing against doesn't play LANs, and we're all just doing crazy shit, and I just hit the crazy shots, and and there's not, the cost of losing the game's not that much. He said, when you go to a LAN and it's real LAN, the ping's 5, the computers are all perfect, there's no reg problems whatsoever, everything's going to hit. He said what happens is you buy that AWP, and if you think of the old school 1.6 economy, they used to have harsh resets. If you're on CT side and you lose pistol, 4th round when you buy that AWP and armor, you have nothing else, and if you lose that, you're back to fucking nothing. He said when you buy it in that scenario and you take that corner and then all of a sudden some god tier Swedish fucking AK player peeks out and instantly headshots you with a fucking AK. He said you think twice about buying it after that. You just think maybe sometimes I'll do it, but I'm not doing that every time. That's a recipe for disaster. So I kind of agree in that sense with you. The obvious example would be Yikinda, right? Because he's doing so many amazing moves online that look super sick right now. So I'll use the old joke that I used to use for Legia's boy Zantares, which is Right now, you're Neo in the Matrix. The problem you have is when Neo went out of the Matrix, all his like fucking muscles were atrophied, and he was like eating gruel. He was like, "How do I do this shit?" Like, you know, he wasn't a superhuman anymore. He had to learn all that shit. Also, here's the thing: I agree with Kassad. Obviously, some of these players are going to make it. I'm sure one or two of these teams will even be very good. But the idea that like all of them are going to go from playing like a fucking DreamHack qualifier to like they're not going to be good instantly. It's going to take time for sure.
No way.
I was speaking only Gambit.
Right, only Gambit's your pick. Okay,
I'm only speaking Gambit.
fair enough.
Just because I see how insane that team is. Like, if you know the teams are copying from you tactics and rounds, then you know.
I'm just happy Corbett is kind of back. You know, people wrote him off a lot.
He's
Sure.
I'm happy.
He's playing really fucking.
Yes.